Okay. This one, right? This one.
Arrows.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The background and all, no?
Okay.
When you turn this side, actually your face looks that side.
The other way around.
Okay. Okay.
Click on the slide whenever you feel like.
Yeah. Okay, we will try and finish tuberculosis today because that's a long chapter, as I told you. And we've covered the major part of it, including the tuberculin sensitivity test as well as the drug regimen for pulmonary tuberculosis, which is, of course, the simplest and the most important thing that you must know. It does contain an intensive phase and a continuation phase. We talked about the fresh cases and we talked about the inadequately treated or the relapse cases. So we will go to something which is major thing in tuberculosis, which is drug-resistant TB management. This was amended over the years, and in 2017 we got the latest one, which classifies drug-resistant TB management based on drug susceptibility testing. Please remember these words: D, S, and T, drug susceptibility testing. Now we have something called as monoresistance. I already told you that. We have something called as poly. We have something called as multi, and we have extensive drug resistance, which is denoted as XDR, and we have rifampicin resistance, which is RR, right? So in monoresistance, nothing great resistance to any one of the first line drugs is called mono. Mono is single. Poly, resistance to more than one first line drugs. One is mono, two or more is poly. Multi is resistance to at least both INH and rifampicin, again the first line drugs. Extensive drug resistance spills on to the second line. Resistance, R is resistance here to any fluoroquinolone, like Moxi, Levo or Ofla, and at least one of the three second line injectables, that is Caprio, kanamycin and amikamycin, plus multi-drug resistance or multi-drug resistance, right? So extensive drug resistance is multi-drug resistance with resistance to any fluoroquinolone and at least one of the three second line injectables. Little difficult, but you have to remember this. And of course, rifampicin is categorized separately. It is called as rifampicin resistance. Rifampicin is can be a monoresistance, it can be polyresistance, it can be multi-resistance, and it can be in extensive drug resistance also, right? So rifampicin resistance can spread its tentacles to any one of these. Now resistance can be of two types: primary or pre-treatment resistance and secondary or acquired resistance. Primary in patients who have not received the drug in question before, and resistant mutants develop during multiplication of bacilli, right? There is no resistance in me. I start taking the drug and I develop resistance. Secondary or acquired resistance is bacteria sensitive to the drug at the start of treatment, but becoming resistant during the course of treatment, right? Now, there's a subtle difference between primary and secondary. Primary in patients who have not received the drug, and yet the resistant mutants are there, right? He has not even started, and yet there is resistance. Whereas secondary is after you start getting the resistance. Just remember these things. The causes, we all know, can be due to mutation and inadequate or improper treatment, lack of compliance and all these things. And causes of inadequate treatment can be with the providers or programmers, that is me and you, who give the patients the drug, inadequate regimens, or there can be a problem with the drug itself, or there can be a problem with patient compliance of drug intake. So that is why it is very important to be compliant, give the right drug, and also ensure the quality of the drug to avoid something called as MDR, XDR. Now, there's a table in your book which gives causes of inadequate treatment. They are, categorized as per the providers, drugs, and the patients. You can just go through that. It's one and the same thing as I told you. There's nothing great in this. But you can just remember that there are three types. The fault can lie with the providers, programmers. The fault can lie with the drugs. And the fault can lie with the patients themselves. Now, integrated DRTB diagnostic, algorithm. Now, please offer DST to the patient at the earliest time during diagnosis. There is something called as universal DST now. Patients are segregated based on risk assessment of drug-resistant tuberculosis and offered drug susceptibility testing guided treatment according to drug resistance status, at least for rifampicin resistance at the time of diagnosis. The least you can do in a lab, I'll come to the labs a little later, is offer him DST and diagnose him as rifampicin resistance, because in case you don't diagnose him, he may just go into rifampicin. The rifampicin may be given to him and he may not be actually getting the result. Subsequently, DST is offered when there is sputum positive after intensive period, there is treatment failure, there is recurrence, there is retrieval after loss to follow-up, that is, you retrieve the patient, or there is any other reason as per treating doctor's advice. Remember, in the IP, we don't do any DST. We let the IP continue, and when he remains sputum positive after IP, we try and do a DST and change the drug regimen if we require to. So therefore, remember, DST is a word which is going to stay with you. Offer the patient DST initially at the beginning of his treatment, and then according to the DST drug sensitivity, give him the bunch of drugs that you want to give. That's the plain and simple thing which comes out of this. Guidelines on programmatic management of drug-resistant TB in India. This has been given in your book as an algorithm. It is slightly confusing. Please remember what I told you, that when you diagnose TB patients as either presumptive or sputum positive, give him CBNAT, then come down to drug susceptibility testing and brand him either as rifampicin resistant or rifampicin sensitive. That's the least you can do, right? And then you come down to the other sensitivities and then offer him the various drugs that we have. Don't delve too much into this table. Just remember what I told you in the previous slide. You must do a drug sensitivity testing, and this minimum you can offer to the patient is a rifampicin drug susceptibility. Pre-treatment evaluation of drug-resistant TB patients. This must be done at all drug-resistant TB centers. They are available as district drug-resistant TB centers, or they are available as nodal. We will come to district and nodal just a little later. Now, treatment card or the I card of the patient is filled up by the doctor or the healthcare worker. The district tuberculosis officer is supposed to visit each and every patient or TB patient in the house, and the designated DOTS provider or the DOT provider is allocated to a particular patient. That this chap is your DOT provider. I already told you who's a DOT provider. It can be an ASHA worker, it can be a volunteer, it can be somebody who's a little educated in the village, it can be somebody of the level of a healthcare worker. Now, counseling, active drug safety monitoring called as ADSM, initiation of appropriate treatment regimen and correction of electrolyte imbalance is the job of a treating physician, right? Remember, these are small one-line sentences in the book, but they are very important to ensure that the patient gets a proper treatment and comes out, treated. Now, MDR or RRTB, we have, mono or poly drug-resistant TB, we give a standard regimen. Now, when we go to a district, drug-resistant tuberculosis center, we generally, in case we are not sure, we refer him to a nodal center, because there can be some doubt as regards resistance, there can be some intolerance, contraindications. You start the treatment and yet the patient is not responding, failing regimen, and some interruption. Referral for HIV counseling, testing is in the ART center. Remember that TB and HIV are actually two things together. They are called as co-epidemic. I'll just tell you in a while. Health education and counseling to the patient and the family, as I have mentioned before, is a must. You must, inject important thing that the patient must take the drug. There is no shortcut to TB treatment. The TB anti-TB drugs, as per 2016 PMDD guidelines, this is also given in the book. They are grouped, as fluoroquinolones, second-line injectables, other second-line agents, and add-on agents. Don't worry about this. We have to just remember the drugs when we come to treatment. Now, we are still in control of tuberculosis. If you recall, we told you that there were two things. One is case finding and one is treatment. We have told you about case finding. We talked about treatment of pulmonary tuberculosis in the last class. And here we are talking about treatment regimen of resistant TB, a big, big problem in today's world. Screen all patients for rifampicin. I'm again emphasizing on that. And in case your drug sensitivity test center allows, some additional drugs can also be included in DST. For drug sensitive TB, administer daily fixed dose, regimens of first line anti-TB drugs in appropriate weight bands for all forms of TB and for all ages, including 4-drug FDC in the intensive phase and 3-drug FDC in the continuation phase. This is something which you know, which we have already discussed in the last class. All rifampicin resistant or MDR TB are given baseline kanamycin and levofloxacin all across the country. In addition, extended DST to all second-line drugs in a phased manner is done. Please remember, all rifampicin resistant or multi-drug resistant TB are given the baseline treatment as kanamycin and levofloxacin. Now, rifampicin resistant and MDR TB patients without additional drug resistance are treated with standard short course treatment regimen for MDR TB. Why I have highlighted that is, the next slide gives you the standard short course treatment regimen for MDR. In those with mixed patterns of resistance, standard MDR TB regimens are modified by the pulmonologist or the physician. You don't have to think too much about it. Just remember, we are talking about resistance. We should know something about drug resistance in tuberculosis. We should know what is MDR, what is RR, what is XDR. These are Viva questions. We just ask you to see whether you actually know what those abbreviations stand for. In case you're doing well, we will ask you some more details. Where DST patterns for extended DST are available, the management protocol will follow essential optimized regimen for patients diagnosed with drug resistance other than MDR and XDR. Please remember, wherever DST patterns for extended DST is other than or more than rifampicin resistance diagnosis, right? The management protocol will follow optimized regimen, minimize leakage across the care cascade and maximize adherence. These are directions for the healthcare workers. This is what is the treatment regimen without additional resistance in case of rifampicin resistance or multi-drug resistance. I am sure you must be knowing by now what is RR and what is MDR, right? So rifampicin resistant plus isoniazid or INH sensitive is given 6 to 9 months of kanamycin, levofloxacin, okay, ethionamide, cycloserine, then we have pyrazinamide and INH, right? Ethambutol, sorry, ETO is ethambutol, E is ethionamide. So please remember 6 to 9 months of 7 drugs to start with. MDR, tough to remember. You must have this in front of you before you come for the exam. In case there's a question, it's actually a tough question, but you must be able to write at least the 6 to 9 part, and the next part is 18 months. Please remember, we talked about 2 and how many months in the continuation phase in the normal pulmonary tuberculosis treatment? Anyone? 2 and continuation phase, how much?
4 months, sir.
Yeah, good. Don't hesitate. Even if you are wrong, shout. I can't see you. And you can't, the others can't see you. So 2 and 4. And in case we have relapse cases, it is?
5 months.
Yeah, continuation phase is 5 months. I'm glad at least one girl is answering. And in case we have MDR TB, other than, we talked about RR, now we are talking about MDR. In case we have MDR TB, you will notice that H is gone. From the treatment regimen IP or intensive phase, we have taken out H, and from the continuation phase also, we have taken out INH or isoniazid. So it's simple. You have to just mug up the 7 drugs, take out INH, and you have to take out kanamycin, which is an injectable drug in continuation phase. Correct? Are you getting me? Are you getting me? Say yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So that's how you remember, because even I don't remember this. When I came for the class, I had to go through the books and my presentation. You see kanamycin, levofloxacin, ethambutol, cycloserine, then we have pyrazinamide, ethionamide, and we have INH, right? We take out the kanamycin part in the continuation phase in rifampicin resistance. Once it is MDR-TB, INH also is out in both the phases. Kanamycin, of course, is out in the continuation phase. That's how you remember. Otherwise, it's a bunch of drugs, very difficult to remember. And remember, 6 to 9 months, depending on the physician, and 18 months is the continuation phase. That's a long, long time. 18 plus 6 makes it 24. That is 2 years of treatment for MDR. The patient compliance is so important. Now we come to XDR. XDR TB cases will be treated thus. 6 to 12 months, just see the table. Don't worry about what is written. 6 to 12 months of IP, and the CP or the continuation phase remains as 18 months. Okay? 6 to 12 months. It is not 6 to 9. Right? And we have drugs like capreomycin, we have drugs like moxifloxacin, we have drugs like linezolid. I also can't, tell them so quickly. We have drugs like PAS, we have drugs like clofazimine, and we have high-dose INH and co-amoxiclav. Just see, so many antibiotics, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, again 7 drugs. Okay, for 6 to 12 months of XDR IP. And we have the capreomycin or the injectable part taken out when we go for the continuation phase of 18 months. So continuation phase remains the same of duration in MDR and XDR, but the IP keeps varying from 6 to 9 to 6 to 12 months. There is a small paragraph on childhood TB. See, we have covered XDR, we have covered MDR, and we have covered normal pulmonary tuberculosis. All you are required to is to remember the normal pulmonary tuberculosis treatment, right? Like somebody said, 2 and 4 and 3 and 5, right? Don't have to go too much into MDR and XDR. Just remember the drugs. Just remember the second lines. You can just remember the duration of the intensive phase and the continuation phase. In case you're a good student, you will mug up the drugs also. But if you write this much, I think you deserve a 7 or an 8 out of 10 in case the question is of 10 marks. Now we have something called as childhood tuberculosis. 6 to 8% of all tuberculosis is childhood tuberculosis. The source is, of course, an adult or a family member because we are the closest to the child. They rarely have sputum positive tuberculosis. Diagnosis is by, a sputum smear if available, or family history. We have tuberculin sensitivity test. We have got complement fixation test. We have got chest X-ray, and we have got HPE. Treated with daily DOTS, fixed dose regimens, patient-wise boxes. Remember, India is the first country to introduce DOTS in childhood tuberculosis cases with patient-wise boxes. By this time, the class should know what's a patient-wise box. It's a box with the patient's name written there and kept in the DOTS center. The drugs are taken out of that box only and given to that particular patient. That's all. If you're asked in the Viva, what's a patient-wise box in tuberculosis treatment or DOTS, just say this much, right? I think it's nothing difficult. Now, there is a huge diagnostic algorithm for pediatric TB given in your book. There's a new guideline. Please remember, I have written something extra in the TST part. We do tuberculin sensitivity in an adult with how many tuberculin units of PPD? Anyone?
One unit, sir.
One. Absolutely right. Okay, absolutely right. So in pediatric tuberculosis cases, we do it with how many units? It's written in front of you. 2. Can you see this 2? Can you see this?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. So please remember, in childhood tuberculosis or in a child, when we do tuberculin sensitivity test, we use 2 tuberculin units of PPD, purified protein derivative. The treatment part, you can just go through the algorithm. It is a little confusing. Just remember that there is something called a childhood. Very difficult to diagnose with sputum because a child doesn't know how to bring out his sputum. So we are dependent on chest X-ray and sputum culture like we take in case of COVID by taking a smear or by taking a sample. But there are other sophisticated tests to find out about childhood tuberculosis. There is also a small thing on TB in pregnancy and lactation. Remember, these are viva questions in gynecology, even in SPM and medicine. All first-line drugs can be used except streptomycin, which is autotoxic to the fetus. Please remember this. When you're asked in the viva what drugs can be used in pregnancy, the tuberculosis drugs, say everything except streptomycin. Breastfeeding to continue during the treatment of the mother and the baby. It is not baby to be put on 6 months INH preventive treatment followed by BCG. The BCG is not given immediately. The patient or the baby is put on 6 months of INH or isoniazid, and then the breastfeeding is continue. Okay, mothers receiving INH and babies are also supplemented with vitamin B6. Please remember, don't give streptomycin. Breastfeeding should continue. In case the baby has to breastfeed, you have to put him on 6 months of preventive treatment. And mothers receiving INH because of tuberculosis and babies, they both should be supplemented with pyridoxine. Is it gone? Or is it still there? Okay, it's there. Yeah. No, I thought there was a failure in between. Huh?
Can you just check whenever we can hear you?
No, it's there. All the three are green.
Yeah, sometimes they can't hear you.
Is the class there?
They're able to hear.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. Say yes. Don't sleep here. We are having a problem with electricity here. Okay. Shout, yeah. So MDR TB in pregnancy, there is a separate algorithm. All women of childbearing age who are receiving MDR TB therapy should be advised to use birth control measures. It's up to the patient. The patient is willing for an MTP. Please go ahead with an MTP. Patient unwilling for MTP, you have a separate regimen, right? That's what is given in the algorithm. You don't have to worry too much about it. Please remember the golden rules that we were discussed. I have just taken out the juice out of those 4 or 5 paragraphs that are there and given you these 4 or 5 lines. It won't be a major part of the question, but just remember, in case there is a question asked you in the viva about TB in pregnancy and lactation, you should not give a blank look. Well, we come to the all-important BCG vaccination. Please remember, the moment you start writing an answer or speaking, what the abbreviation stands for, you must know. Like I told you last class, many people don't know what is DOTS. When there is a short note on DOTS, and they write all sorts of bizarre connotations. Please remember the full form: Bacillus calmette guerin. Okay, it's a French word. You got to remember this. BCG is Bacillus calmette guerin. That's why it is in bold. It's a vaccine primarily used against tuberculosis. It was started off as early as 1921 and was given orally initially. But since 1927, almost 93 years now, it is being given as intradermal. Everybody has received it intradermal. The value of tuberculosis vaccination or BCG vaccination was recognized in 1948 after the World War. In countries where TB or leprosy is common, 1 dose is recommended in healthy babies as close to the time of birth as possible. Well, no marks for guessing. In India also it is given to a newborn baby, right? Because we are a country where TB and leprosy is common. The vaccine was developed over 13 years of research from 1908 to 21 by French bacteriologists Albert Calmette and Camille Guerin, who named it after their names as Guerin. Okay? So it was the French scientists who developed the vaccine. The aim of the vaccination is to induce a benign, artificial, primary infection, which will stimulate an acquired resistance to possible subsequent infection. We all know vaccines act like that. Remember the important aspects of this vaccine. It's a live vaccine. It is widely used. It is from an attenuated bovine strain of tuberculosis bacilli. There are many substrains in different labs. The Danish 1331 strain is WHO recommended and used in India also. Remember, there are many strains of this bacilli which have been developed from the bovine, that is the cows. okay, and attenuated. Now, the Danish 1331 substrain is used in India because it is WHO recommended. The BCG lab in Guindy, Chennai. It is in the outskirts of Chennai, but now, of course, Chennai is spread. I have seen this lab from a distance. I haven't had the fortune of going inside. But the BCG lab in Guindy is manufacturing this vaccine since 1967, when many of your parents were born, perhaps. And the International Red Cross at Copenhagen checks the quality of this vaccine regularly. So remember, we have to send samples to Denmark, where the samples for the vaccine prepared in the country are checked. The types of the vaccine are liquid and freeze-dried. We use the freeze-dried. The latter vaccine, the freeze-dried vaccine, is more stable. It is protected from sunlight and temperatures at 10 degrees centigrade. It is reconstituted with normal saline. Viva question. Normal saline is the fluid used to reconstitute the freeze-dried vaccine. You may have written this in your practical records when you came to the department for your clinical postings. Okay. Once you reconstitute the vaccine, please remember to vaccinate maximum of the babies because you have to use it within 3 hours. The dosage is 0.1 mg in 0.1 ml volume. Remember this. 0.1 milligram in 0.1 milliliters volume in newborn babies. And this is because the skin is very thin. See the baby's photograph. The skin is very thin and the vaccine may go deeper into the muscles, causing local abscesses and axillary lymphadenopathy. So this is avoided, and a skilled person or a health worker gives it intradermal. Remember not to give any other vaccine in the arm of the baby for the next 6 months. The administration of the vaccine is by an Omega microstat syringe fitted with 1 centimeter steel 26 gauge intradermal needle. You will see this syringe in our museum once you rejoin after lockdown. Remember to see that. It can be given with a normal syringe, but it is given with a tuberculin syringe. Just above insertion of the left deltoid. See the photograph where the person is holding the baby. He is also palpating the insertion of the deltoid and giving it accordingly. There is a wheel of 5 millimeter diameter if injected successfully. If alcohol is used to clean the site, remember that the site now it's okay, right?
Yes, sir, all good.
Now we are on Wi-Fi. Okay. Sorry for the interruption, but to continue, the age of the vaccination is at birth, like we all know, and it is also given at 6 weeks wherever the BCG, wherever TB is prevalent. I'm talking about the West, right? In our country, it is at birth. And in case the TB is not prevalent, it is given only to high-risk groups like healthcare workers or people who are working with HIV patients, all those people. After vaccination, remember this is given in green. The timeline you must remember. There's a papule in 2 to 3 weeks which increases in size gradually. In 5 weeks, that is from 5 weeks of the vaccination, when the baby is about a month or a month plus old, the diameter of the papule becomes 4 to 8 millimeters. I told you it is increasing in size. You've seen the papule in the previous slide. See, this is the papule, the small papule which appears, right? And the papule slowly increases in size and becomes about 4 to 8 millimeters before it bursts into a short ulcer, which is obviously all ulcers are covered with crust. Now, healing takes place when the baby is about 1.5 months to 3 months old. That is about 6 to 12 weeks. And there's a permanent, tiny, round or oval scar which is left in the deltoid part of the left arm. We all have that scar. If the scar is larger and irregular, it is because of overdosage, it is because of a fault of the healthcare worker, and we can't do much. So leave it like that. Please remember, in 2 to 3 weeks, the papule becomes increasing in size In 5 weeks, it becomes about 8 millimeters in diameter and it breaks into an ulcer, which is covered with the crust, right? Tell the mother all these things because she'll be worried. She'll be thinking this is a wound or something. Okay, please tell her that not to touch that part. This papule and bursting, ulcer and crust, they are all a part of the BCG vaccine, development of the immunity. The protective value of the BCG vaccination is a little doubtful. There was a study called as a South Indian trial, which was carried out for about 20 years, and they found that the protective value of BCG vaccine is for 15 to 20 years. So therefore, our authorities think it is worth taking a BCG vaccine because at least for 20 odd years we are protected. Revaccination, not in our country, it's a matter of dispute, not done. What are the contraindications? General eczema, actually none. Infective dermatosis, hypogammaglobulinemia, history of deficient immunity, under immunosuppressive treatment, some pregnancy. We generally don't give it to a pregnant woman in our country because she's already taken it. So these are the contraindications in general. We are talking about the other countries also where TB is not prevalent. BCG after HIV infection. In India, the BCG after HIV infection is given as tests to demonstrate HIV in newborn baby is not available. See, we don't have PCR and all these sophisticated tests which we carry out in a newborn baby to detect HIV in a newborn. So we give BCG without any other thought. Well, WHO recommendations are that HIV positive, even if asymptomatic, will not be administered BCG. In our country, we cannot do the tests, and that's why we give the BCG. But WHO recommendations are that in case the baby is HIV positive, which is very difficult for us to find out at birth, even if asymptomatic, even if the baby has got no symptoms, they will not be given BCG. But don't worry, in our country, remember, we give BCG. Okay? There is something called as chemoprophylaxis against tuberculosis. It is given with INH for 1 year or INH plus ethambutol for 9 months. It's a costly exercise, not effective, and it causes drug-induced hepatitis, right? This is meant for people who are coming into a tuberculosis zone. It is not meant for you and me. But remember, in case somebody asks you, say yes. Hospitalization of a tuberculosis patient is no longer done. In the previous days, you will find a TB patient going to a sanatorium up the hill, breathing fresh air there, staying there for months, taking treatment, and either succumbing to the disease or coming back as cured. Many people lost their lives before the anti-tuberculosis treatment came up because of tuberculosis. They used to die very young, but that is no more the scene. And even today, we provide tuberculosis treatment domiciliary. I told you this last time. But sometimes hospitalization is a must, and these are because of emergencies like hemoptysis, spontaneous pneumothorax, in case the patient has undergone a surgery, like maybe a resection of the lung, and in case he has got serious meningeal tuberculosis, right? If the patient has no one to look after in the house, it's a social problem. Please admit the patient for some time. So these are the various criteria for hospitalization of a tuberculosis patient. Obviously, whenever a patient is admitted, we admit only a serious patient. Otherwise, it's domiciliary. I told you that I'll speak a little bit about TB and HIV. The two diseases are a deadly combination. They are far more destructive together than either disease alone. And that is why TB and HIV, when they coexist, it is called as a co-epidemic. In developing countries, many people infected with HIV contract tuberculosis as the first sign of AIDS. Please remember, his immune system is compromised, and therefore tuberculosis bacillus attacks him and he gets tuberculosis. That is in fact the first thing that is found out in a patient with HIV. 1/3 of the 38.6 million HIV positive in the world are infected with tuberculosis and may get the disease. Like I told you, it can be the first sign or it can be manifesting later. So 1/3 of 38.6 million, that is about 13 million people who are HIV positive in the world today are also tuberculosis positive. Tuberculosis is the leading cause of illness and death among people living with HIV. PLHIV is people living with HIV. In some settings, tuberculosis kills up to 50% of all AIDS patients. So tuberculosis is a dangerous thing. We come down to the policies of the government in the end. We have something called as RNTCP, which has been renamed. But I'll tell you a short history about that. It started as a National Tuberculosis Program in 62. The name was changed about 30 years later into RNTCP, right? The WHO and the Swedish agency, SIDA, they reviewed the RNTCP in our country and revised it and told us to implement it in 1993. The objectives are 85% cure rate and to detect at least 70% of cases. Remember, 85% cure rate and to detect 70% of cases. See, we are so short. We don't even know who's got tuberculosis in the country today. We haven't even diagnosed 60 or 50% of the cases. So the aim was to diagnose at least 70% cases and cure 85% of these cases. Those are the two aims of RNTCP. Well, in 1998, when the program was implemented in 1993, after 5 years, there was a review and people found, because of people like us who are lackadaisical healthcare workers, only 2% of the population was covered. In March 2006, after a solid, what we call in colloquial languages, bamboo from the government, the healthcare workers started, implementing the program. And by March 2016, the whole country was covered. Now we are getting the gains out of this national program because tuberculosis has reduced in incidence. The ATT has worked wonders, the DOTS has worked wonders, and we have got a standardized diagnostic and treatment protocol. I talked about the diagnostic and treatment protocols already. This is a very important thing. Please get used to these terms: the DOT strategy, the Stop TB strategy, and the End TB strategy. Me and you are in a phase where the End TB strategy is going on, right? From 1994 for 10 years up to 2005, the DOT strategy worked. In 2006, the government modified it and called it Stop TB strategy. And then from 2016, we have come down to the End TB strategy, which is going to continue till 2035, right? So this is a 20-year policy, initially 10 years, then another 10 years, and then 20 years. Please remember, whatever is written underneath, you can just go through it. It's one and the same thing. DOTS can be asked you in the exam. There are 5 points in DOTS, starting with government commitment, case detection, standardized chemotherapy, a system of regular supply, and establishment of a monitoring system, right? And through Stop TB strategy, we come down to the End TB strategy, which is bolder and more intensified and integrated kind of TB strategy. The End TB strategy has a vision of world free of tuberculosis and 0 deaths and 0 disease and 0 suffering due to tuberculosis. So 0, 0, and 0. It plans to end the global tuberculosis epidemic by 2035. Very difficult proposition, but why not? Okay? And the targets as per the SDG, we all remember what is Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 2030. They want to reduce the number of TB deaths to 90% as compared to 2015, which is the baseline. They want to reduce the TB incidence rate to 80%. And they want TB families facing out-of-pocket expenditure or catastrophic costs due to treatment of tuberculosis to 0. Even today, when the government is giving free treatment like DOTS, people are paying for the drugs and buying anti-tuberculosis drugs. So they by 2030, they want to make it 0. And the same targets extended for another 5 years become 95% reduction in number of deaths, 90% reduction in incidence, and 0, the 0 remains the same. The 0 families facing difficulty economically. That's the End TB strategy. Please remember this. The global plan defines, there's a global plan to end TB. It defines key populations as vulnerable, underdeserved, or at risk of tuberculosis. 3 key populations are described: those who work with increased exposure at home and work. Like I am at work, I am increasingly exposed to tuberculosis because I work with them, or I work or I treat patients. And at home, if I have a TB patient, I am exposed. Those with limited access to quality TB services, and those at increased risk due to biological and behavioral factors that comprise immune functions. So, immunocompromised. These are the three key populations which are described by the government, by the WHO, in fact, as key populations which are vulnerable and they need to be, treated, diagnosed and treated. The targets are designed as 90-90-90 targets. Another new thing which you learned after NTB is 90-90-90. As a part of the global approach, the WHO wants to reach out to 90% of all people with tuberculosis. They want to cover 90% of the key populations. I already told you what is the key population here. The key populations are three. And they want to have at least 90% treatment success. Please remember there's something called as 90-90-90 plan. Now, in RNTCP, we are still in RNTCP. We deviated to DOTS, NTB, Stop TB, and NTB. Now, it has got an organizational structure starting from center to state TB cell to district TB center. And under the district TB center, we have got tuberculosis unit and DMC or district microscopic centers. And underneath them, we have got DOTS center. Against these, we have got the staff which are working. If you see, the grassroots level workers are the health workers, the ASHAs, the Anganwadi workers, the NGOs, and the volunteers, right? These are the people. PP is a public-private partnership, right? So these are the people who are working at the grassroots level to provide DOTS to the patients in the rural areas or in the slums or people who are underdeserved and underprivileged. So this is the organizational structure of the RNTCP. It is given in the book. You have to write a line or two when you write an answer on RNTCP because you can write about the aims, you can write about the strategies, you have to also write about the organization. This is the lab, organization. We have a central TB division where we have an NRL, or national level, national reference lab. At the state, we have got intermediate reference lab or IRL. At the district, we have got district tuberculosis center where we have DMC, as I told you, which are in tuberculosis units or tuberculosis units, right, where we have a CBNAT lab. So just remember there's a lab network also, which has got a hierarchy from national center to intermediate center to district tuberculosis center. The NRL has got so many microbiologists and lab technicians you need not know. They are given in the book, highly confusing. Just remember the words NRL, IRL, culture and DST labs. I told you DST labs, okay, culture and DST labs. See, TB culture, TBC and DST labs. And we have DMC or the district microscopy center, which is the most peripheral lab and the most important to diagnose the tuberculosis patients at the grassroots level. RNTCP endorsed TB diagnostics is also another word which is now in vogue. We basically mean smear microscopy or AFB, culture, rapid diagnostic molecular tests, radiography were available, and tuberculin sensitivity test. Just give me 5 more minutes. There are certain new initiatives you must know. One is Nikshay, tuberculosis, Nikshay TB. This is a tuberculosis surveillance using case-based, web-based IT system or information technology system. Today, everything is on this phone, right, on your smartphone. So Nikshay TB links the tuberculosis patient's phone with the system where he can be monitored. We will talk one more word about it a little later. TB is a notifiable disease. The government of India started TB notification from 7th May 2012. These are the new initiatives under RNTCP. There is no importance of TB serology, so it is banned. And we have got a DBTS or direct, consumer-based transfer system. We have something like Aadhaar-based system where the money comes in the bank, right? So Nikshay is linked with Aadhaar to deliver benefits to the patients. Please remember there's something called as Nikshay. In this whole slide, Nikshay and TB notification is more important. To continue with the newer initiatives, we have got daily regimen for pediatric TB. India is the first country to start this regimen. Daily regimen for all forms of tuberculosis. When DOT started, it used to be alternate days, but now it has become daily regimen. There are pilot studies for universal access to TB cases going on. Bedaquiline is a new drug which is being added now in second line, and it is also being accessed by patients. And we are in a campaign mode where active case finding is going on by going into house visits and targeting some populations or high-risk populations and also getting TB cases diagnosed. Drug resistance surveillance is also going on under RNTCP. TB care services are there in private sector. Private sector has been roped in. Many private hospitals and doctors are involved in TB care. And TB and HIV coordination is a big thing which is going on because we also have so many PLHIVs in our country. There's a national strategic plan for tuberculosis. This is other than the RNTCP. I just want to apprise you of this because you may hear this word. It describes the activities and interventions that government believes will bring about a significant change in the incidence, prevalence, mortality, and morbidity from TB. There are 4 pillars of national strategic plan. They are detect as many as possible, treat as many as possible. See, all old wine in a new bottle, and prevent as many as possible, as well as build the surveillance and the treatment and the monitoring methods. The vision is of a TB-free India. We all dream of a TB-free India with 0 deaths due to the TB disease and 0 poverty due to tuberculosis. We must realize that all these diseases, they make us poorer because the poor, he spends... Yeah? The goal is to achieve a rapid decline in the burden of tuberculosis, mortality and morbidity. We're working towards the elimination of TB in India. Though the global plan is to eliminate it by 2035 or something, we want to eliminate it in another 5 years. It is impossible, but not, it is difficult, but not impossible. There are 4 thrust areas. As I told you, private sector is involved. They detect TB cases by CBNAT, not very important. Just remember, there's something called as National Strategic Plan. And private provider incentives. I told you, private doctors or private hospitals are also being given monetary incentives to notify tuberculosis. Whenever a patient completes treatment, he is given some money. And whenever the entire course of TB treatment is done and the patient is declared as cured, they'll be eligible to receive some money. So remember, there are monetary incentives given to people who are helping us diagnose and helping a TB patient take the TB drugs as per the regimen. So this is also a private provider incentive. There is something called as 99 DOTS, a pharmacoeconomic approach for monitoring and improving adherence to TB medication, started in 2015 by the RNTCP in high burden ART centers or antiretroviral treatment centers. It's called 99 DOTS because they envisage that it has 99% chances of cure of the patients taking the treatment. Patient medication is packaged in envelopes with dosage instructions and a series of hidden numbers, that is SMS phone numbers behind the pills. I'll show you a photograph. This is how it is. Okay, it is basically a modification of the presentation of the drug, nothing new, with some numbers. As you see, when you remove the drug, there are some numbers which are appearing, right? So it's a low-cost monitoring and improving the medication adherence. One of the most important or the most difficult things in tuberculosis is compliance. So they are doing this for compliance. When you take this drug out, there's a number which appears behind the pill, and you are supposed to give an SMS to that number. See, there's a number which is there behind the pill, and it says send free call. This is 99 DOTS. So you've learned something other than RNTCP. One is the National Strategic Plan, and one is 99 DOTS. You also remember Nikshay, okay? So remember these 2-3 words which are important. Nikshay is a combination of 2 Hindi words, Ni and Shay. Ni is the end, and Shay is Shay Rog is tuberculosis. It's a web-based solution for effectively monitoring TB patients under RNTCP. Apart from web-based technology, SMS services has been used effectively for communication with patients and monitoring the program on day-to-day basis. You just have to know that Nikshay started in 2012. It's a web-based solution for effectively monitoring TB patients. Similarly, 99 DOTS was also started. Okay, it's a pharmacoeconomic approach for monitoring tuberculosis medication. It was started in 2015. So remember, in case you're doing well in the Viva, we will ask you what is, NTB strategy, what is 99 DOTS, what is Nikshay scheme. There are some recent changes in RNTCP. They have added some, investigation methods like CBNAT. We already talked about it. LED fluorescence microscopy, automated liquid culture, drug susceptibility. We've already talked a lot about it. Line probe assay and all these things, they have been added. Please note, at the start of 2020, the government has renamed the RNTCP as the National Tuberculosis Elimination Program, right? The other day, a girl rightly said it is called as NTEP now. All of you should know that it is now called as NTEP. In a letter to all state chief secretaries and union territories chief secretaries, the government wrote in 2020 that let's change the name of the program to tuberculosis elimination and achieve the SGD, Sustainable Development Goal. It should be SDG goal of ending tuberculosis by 2025, 5 years ahead of global targets. They want to finish it in 2030 or 2035. In India, we want to end it by 2025. Okay? What our Union Health Minister says is ensuring affordable and quality health care to the population is a priority for the government, and we are committed to achieving zero TB deaths, and therefore we need to re-strategize, think afresh, and have to be aggressive in our approach to end tuberculosis by 2025. So this is a big chapter in the book covering a few, maybe 20 odd pages, and it constitutes various parts. We started with the epidemiological indices, if you remember. We also talked about the definitions. What is relapse? What is recurrence? What is, follow-up? What is loss to follow-up and all these things. We came down to the agent, host, and environment. That is the epidemiology per se. We homed on to control, and we homed on to the control by talking about the case finding and the treatment methodologies. In treatment, we talked about the pulmonary tuberculosis cases, as well as the MDR and the XDR today. We talked about the national strategy, which is the NTEP, previously called as RNTCP, and also some new schemes which have been added onto the RNTCP or without it, called as National Strategic Plan, 99 dots, NICSHA, and all these things. So remember, in short, TB, you have learned some new words. You can go back to your books and underline these and just read them before you come for the exam, because some of these will be asked in the exam. It's a very, very important chapter. If you read it from SPM point of view well, you will also remember a lot of things which will help you in medicine and in pediatrics, right? We talked about childhood TB in short. We talked about TB in pregnancy and lactation in short. There are some paragraphs on TB and HIV and TB and tobacco and TB and diabetes in the chapter. I have skipped them because they are going to make it too long and too boring, right? So next class, from next week, we will start on intestinal infections. We have covered the respiratory infections as of now. I have taken some classes on ARI and SARS. I have taken classes on meningitis and whooping cough. Before that, Shiva ma'am took the classes on the other respiratory infections, and we have completed the chapter with a very, very important topic called as tuberculosis. All the best to you. Remain. Thank you for listening in.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
This conference is no longer being recorded.